Start the recording. Thank you, and welcome to Retro Arcadia. I just, fucked up for a good bit. So yeah, let's just go through your next questions, and then we can kind of circle back. So we're talking about 621 Quoth the Raven. It's about Armored Core 6. And we'll just start with your next question. Go ahead.
All right, so we just finished up a just wonderfully raucous conversation about how much we love toys, and we love playing with toys, and we love toy stores, and the insight that toy stores let us have into the futures of our favorite Japanese franchises, specifically Dragon Ball, but also we have you had that with like Pokemon cards too and stuff, like seeing the new Pokemon on the Japanese cards before the games had come out. Talking about mech. What are, just to characterize you, the author, a little bit, what kind of mechs do you like? What are your favorite mechs? Like, what series have the coolest looking mechs or lore behind the mechs? And then which ones can you just not stand at all? What are the base mechs? And then what are the cringe mechs? What do you like?
The based mechs. The base mechs are pretty much any mechs that have capes. So I like any mech that puts totally useless and probably dangerous giant capes on the mechs. So like Gundam Wing, the movie Endless Waltz, has this Gundam called Sandrock that's basically got a huge cape, which is really cool. There's also this series called Escaflowne, which all of the robots have capes, which is also really cool. So let's see. Escaflowne, if you can see it.
And I'm dropping in the chat real quick a picture of Ren Mazuo, which is one of the gears from Xenogears. It's one of my favorites, and it also has a cape. So yeah, I agree with the cape.
So any sort of cape thing like is really cool. Totally useless giant cape is awesome. You can see here. Big fan of the giant robots that have useless capes. Yeah. I think cringe mechs. I think Neon Evangelion. I really don't like the mech design of Evangelion. They look too like alien and organic for me. I want them to look like robots, So.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Next
what about? I'm trying to think of mechs that I don't like. I don't. I guess the Evangelion is a fair critique, but I think they are aliens in that. So that's kind of
the actual mechs are aliens. I thought they were fighting. I haven't seen all of it.
I think they are organic in some way, shape, or form. I forget. I haven't seen that in years. In years. Yeah. Cool. Giant robots are always neat. Where are my questions? Here's a question from my son. When I was writing the questions down, and it was essentially, I don't know how to pronounce it, and it was a squiggle, and he went up and down a bunch, and then he wasn't in the lines, and then he let go of the pencil, and then he walked away.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I like that scribbly question, and I had a response here, which is like, how is he doing? How's your son? Is he playing computer games yet? Is my question.
I'll tell you. Yeah, I'll take a minute or two to talk about my son. So my son will be 2 years old in. I don't want him to get doxxed. So roughly a week's time, give or take a couple days, around Christmas. My son was born. He'll be 2 years old, and right now he can read like 200 sight words. Almost in like my wife says that his autism tests come back negative, but he's so like obsessed with letters and numbers that it's like. And
you really want your son to be autistic? You're like, God damn, my son's not an autistic person.
He's not autistic. He walks around being like A, big A, little A. A is for apple, and he's just about a year or 2 years too young to be doing that. So that's really cool. The video game question is awesome because I was just talking to my wife recently about this. I mean, his dexterity probably isn't there. He just acts like a 3 or 4 year old so much that like I kind of wanted to start introducing either, and maybe you can give me some input on this. I think it goes for first game for a baby. It goes one or two ways. Either it's got to be like a simple like platformer for like the dexterity, or since my son can kind of read, maybe like a Pajama Sam type. Maybe it's something a little more baby than Pajama Sam, but like a point and click with like sight words and stuff. I am thinking soon, maybe in the next 6 months, trying to trying to get him to play something, but I don't know. I don't know what that will be.
There's like Freddy Fish and like Putt Putt, and those are Pajama Sam, but I think for younger kids as well. I would consider both of those. My autism again is like messing with me, so I really want to go through the beginning of this because I totally fucked up the beginning being muted. So I have your questions, and I'm going to actually go through them. All right, is that okay with you?
Just go through them.
Is that all right with you?
Yes.
Okay, so your first question was about ravens. Let's talk about chapter 1, which is the raven stuff. First, I want to talk about the banner that I had up, because the banner is important. So that's the banner. The banner, in the bottom left, it says, "The only true freedom is freedom from the heart's desire." And this is this is a quote from the band which is basically just Matt Johnson. And the song is called "True Happiness This Way Lies." And this itself is a reworking of Epictetus, the Greek Stoic philosopher, who said freedom is secured not by fulfilling men's desires, but by the removal of desires. And the reason this is important is because part of this essay is explicitly about human desire overriding our freedoms, like the urge to smoke a cigarette. So, for example, if you have an urge to smoke a cigarette because you're addicted, that's overriding your default freedom. And you could argue that, well, if you really wanted to smoke a cigarette, then more power to you. Maybe you truly do want to smoke a cigarette. But the moment that, like, every hour you need to smoke a cigarette and you can't stop thinking about it, if that's the case, you're no longer a free man. You are an addict. And I think this applies to anything, really. Computer games, sex, everything. The feeling of, like, I could play the computer game for a little longer, instead of paying attention to my son. Or I'll just fuck anybody I want while my significant other thinks I'm at a company trip asleep at the hotel. The moment you're doing this stuff and know it's wrong and can't really control it, you're not free. You're an addict, and you're a slave to your desire. So I think the next question that you had was about ravens. So let's talk about ravens and the history of the game. So in the game, you go to the Rubicon, and the Rubicon is the river that Caesar crossed before starting a civil war with Rome. And in the game, that ties in thematically a lot as well, because there's a lot of points of no return in the game. The Rubicon, the Raven stuff is important as well. The Raven in this essay represents freedom, and the Raven is in every picture, even if it's got like game stuff. There's a raven somewhere in it. I superimposed a raven everywhere, like right here. You can see it on the left. There's a raven in the background of this Gunpla picture. The raven's everywhere, and the raven in this essay represents true freedom and just being free. And the raven is supposed to represent freedom in the actual game as well, but we'll get into that later. Another key point of the essay about the raven is the raven promptly takes a shit on a passing car driving northbound on Interstate 95 at the Pennsylvania Turnpike connector near Bristol Township. This represents that the raven is above humanity and takes shits on humanity's machines, their cars, etc., which we get into later as well. Robots are death machines. They're made for killing people. We mass-produce guns. We mass-produce drones so we can kill people from miles away without having to be face-to-face with them. The Raven should shit all over this stuff because it fucking sucks. And that's kind of the Cliff Notes version of what we talked about while I was muted.
Yep.
What else? The Rubicon. The Rubicon is the planet that this takes place on, and obviously it's the same name as the river, the Rubicon, as well. But also, an important part about the Rubicon is that there's this substance called coral on the Rubicon, and it's basically the best energy source in the world, in the universe. And all these different corporations are fighting for the coral. They're just killing each other to get it. The coral is kind of like a parallel to petrol or oil in the real world. But also, in Armored Core, the coral is kind of like people. It's basically sentient and it has its own mind, and you can smoke it and get like super high on it. So like it all comes together about the addiction and the freedoms, and the anarchy is related to freedom as well. So we talked about Gunpla and mechs, and that's kind of where we're at. It's funny how I could sum up everything. So the next point I think that you wanted to get into is about smoking and doing drugs and coral tripping.
Well, I do want to say that I can. I love just the ... and you can smoke it. I think that suffixes just anything like super well. Like, yeah, this is cool, and you can smoke it.
Right. Yeah, that's like if you could smoke oil. You know, like you can like get oil and smoke it, or drink it.
I'm wondering.
You probably could. You could probably huff oil and like get pretty messed up in the head for a little bit.
You can huff gasoline, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that'll mess you up.
You know what? Human beings are so depraved that I think if gasoline huffers found out that gasoline was like this hive mindal like sentience, right?
They would still.
I think they would still huff it.
Yeah.
They would still huff it. They would still get high as shit. Absolutely. All right. Yeah. So my next question, I think, was all right. Let's talk coral. I don't know if we've mentioned enough about the coral problem on Rubicon, but talk about it if we haven't talked about it in sufficient detail, because it sounds really interesting, right? Like it's this, like, what? Yeah, you can smoke it, but that doesn't quite tell me what it is. What is it? I mean, okay, it's people, but what is it? You know, is it one person? How many people is it? Does it reproduce? It's an organism, right? I guess.
Yeah, it's like there's like some complicated sci-fi reason for it. There's like a lot of backstory in this game that's not really important. But as of the start of this game, like coral has sentience pretty much, and that's the important part that ties into the essay and kind of ties into everything I want to talk about. So what is coral? Coral is basically people, but it's also a full fuel source, and you can smoke. So there is a point in the game that somebody mentions like smoking coral. Like there's like this faction of people who just like smoke coral all the time. And later on you find out that coral is people, which I thought was really interesting. And I draw a parallel to Keith Richards in the essay, because in the essay, once you realize that, you know, coral is people and that there's junk wizards and hackers that are smoking actual coral, which is actually people, it dawns on you that they're not so different from Keith Richards snorting his own father's ashes to gain his knowledge, which is a real thing that Keith Richards did. And I have a source to it here. It's my 10th source in the essay. Keith Richards tells of snorting dad's ashes with cocaine. So he snorted up his dad's own ashes with cocaine. In this case, his dad was dead, which is a little better. And in Armored Core, they're snorting sentient people, while they're still sentient. So,
and that's that's a allusion to what is that old movie? I've never seen Soylent Green, right? Is it revelatory in the way that Soylent Green? Yeah, like and that's a Xenogears allusion, I think, because in Xenogears, when you go to one of the later zones, there's like a part where you find out that the food is people. So is it the first time that that Soylent Green has been a plot reveal or whatever, like that the nature of that reveal has been used in relation to mechs? That's really cool. I wonder if that's a coincidence, or I wonder if the Armored Core devs, I wonder if they did that on purpose. I don't know.
Probably they might have, but I don't think the idea of like eating people is that outrageous or hard to come across on your own nowadays, especially with Soylent Green making it super popular. It's just kind of ingrained in everybody's consciousness that like, what if I turn my sci-fi story into a story about eating people? I think that thing that
it's live on.
Yeah, it's
Futurama as well, right? Futurama, the poplars or something. There's an episode of Futurama where these things everyone loves to eat called poplars, and you find out that they're like babies. They're like little babies that they're frying up. Yeah,
I love eating babies.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
All right. So we've talked about coral. Now I was getting more into I was going to leading up to addiction. We have an interpersonal story. So the two of us are in our early 30s. I guess we could. Is it okay to admit that our relative ages?
Yeah. And again, I want to give background because
30s men.
Because I was muted, I want to give some background. So one of the things I was talking about with this essay is that it's kind of like postmodern in a way where I just kind of like write whatever I want to write, and it doesn't really have a cohesive flow to it. each chapter kind of just jumps around to just random stuff. There's a chapter about going to Hobby Lobby and buying models and making them. It's related to robots, but it's completely unrelated to a lot of other stuff in this essay. But it's vaguely related thematically. The smoking coral. This whole chapter, Coral Tripping at the Gates of Now. This title is stolen shamelessly from a Flaming Lips album called Ego Tripping at the Gates of Hell. I don't really like Flaming Lips that much, but I like that album title, so I took it and used it here. And this whole section is about addiction, doing drugs. It starts off with the Junk Wizards and Hackers, which talks about in-game doing the, smoking the coral, etc. And then it flows into this chapter that's called 253rd West 27th Street, which is a personal story. From my life, and I guess that's what you're going to ask about, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, so this is a personal story, interpersonal story from. So if we're in our early 30s, we were what, 7? We weren't adults. We were still in high school, right? We were probably 17. Were you still in high school? Because you dropped out early, right? So or late. So if we were still in school, we were probably 17. So that would be like almost 17 years ago. So half our lives ago, Guru shares a story about the cough syrup, right? Zicam, it's a cough syrup.
Yeah, so Zicam. Yeah, I think the first 2 lines is probably like some of the best stuff I've ever written. Enter extravagant mansion of tan stucco siding and faded Rubicon red roofing, balcony with all real moss, the Great Recession, 2008, summertime when the living is easy, night. I really like that line. I think it's really good. Like I said, I think this essay has some of the best writing that I've done and also some of the worst. Not to toot my own horn, I think I talked about that earlier when I was muted, which still pisses me the fuck off. So this is a story about when I drank a whole bottle of Zicam because I wanted to do drugs. I think I wanted to do LSD, but I couldn't find any where we lived. So I was like, I Googled with Firefox, like, what's the best way to get fucked up? And it was like, just drink some cough syrup. So I bought Zicam, and I drank the whole bottle of Zicam. And that was a big mistake. I shouldn't have drank the whole bottle. And basically, the rest of the night was just me rolling around on the balcony, just being stupid, and everything was red and swirling, and it was pretty crazy. And I'm kind of surprised that they even sell that stuff, because you can probably kill yourself on that if you drink like more than what I did. I felt like I was dying probably, and I probably was. If I drank more, I probably would have like died or something, because I felt like really messed up after, in hindsight. So that's what this is about. It's just that the whole story about you and me doing cough syrup.
I must have drove, I think I must have drove.
And this is a real picture. I found this on Zwillow of the house that I used to live in, and this is a real picture recently of the actual room.
It looks exactly the same.
The actual room where this happened. And then the balcony's right here on the left, and this is the actual balcony where I was laying on the ground, rolling around, and everything was red. And you can see here everything's red. And in the balcony, you can see there's a raven in the outside of the window.
Cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. So like I said, I put a raven and everything in this essay. So, yeah. So this is the actual room. My mom came home mid-trip, like hardcore mid-trip, and I was at that point. You had like gotten me into the bed and like laid me down, and we're just like fucking around on the computer. And my mom came in and was like, "Are you okay?" And then she like felt my head and she said like, "Oh, you're burning up." And she thought I was sick, and she gave me like some NyQuil or something, and then I just passed out. I think you had said that you remembered this story a lot differently. Could you tell me about that? Like, how do you remember it? My memory kind of sucks, so it's definitely possible that you remembered it differently than I did, or more accurately.
I mean, it's a haze. I'm like, I remember buying the Zicam, but I can't remember where. I think we bought it like from a CVS closer to my house or something, but maybe not. Maybe we went back into town from your house. I don't know why this matters or interests me, but like like contextualizing it like with the memory from so long ago is like I remember doing. I wasn't. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. The time when I bought cough syrup from the place next to your house was different. I bought the wrong type of cough syrup that didn't actually do anything. This time we got it from, I think it was Harris Teeter on the island. And I think you drove. Yeah, you probably drove. You were the only person who could drive at that time.
It was like a spray bottle, right?
Yeah, I've got the picture up right here. It's basically this. And if you take off the spray part and just drink it, you will totally just get messed up real bad. And it's not.
Yeah, wouldn't recommend it.
It's not like a psychedelic trip. It's like I'm dying, and everything is red, and I can't
I remember red. I was gonna say that's what I remember you saying. Red. Everything is red.
It's red. Yeah. Like I think the liquid is actually red too. So it's like I don't know what it does, but it messes you up really badly.
Did it look like that picture? Is that what it looked like?
Yeah, that's why I made the picture like that, because that's the same room, and that's what it looked like. Yeah. I don't know if it's like a layer of blood that's like building up in my eyes. Like I have no idea what it. I have no idea. But yeah, I remember that distinctly about the experience that everything was red.
I think it's what it was. I think it's a layer of blood that was building up. I think undoubtedly that has to be what it was.
To be, yeah, right. For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So what about what do you think about people that do wine and have thoughts about their aunts, sexual thoughts about people that are related to them? What do you think about that?
I think that's funny. So that's this. What is that? Wine, Weapons, and Women. That's chapter 6, part 3. This is just I was drinking and I was on a roll trying to write some like cool sounding stuff, which I think I did succeed at here. Just for the record, I've never slept with my aunt. I just added that kind of innuendo and hint in there just because I thought it was funny. I thought it was cool.
You do mention it again in the video you posted, right? The Fantasy Star video, I think, also mentions like an aunt with tattoos as well.
Oh yeah. It's based on the same aunt, but I didn't sleep with her.
Yeah, it's based on the same one. Based on the same one.
Based on the same one.
No one. Yeah. That's totally fine. That's totally fine. I get it.
So what I wanted to do with this section. Yeah. So what I wanted to do, I say like just for the first sentence here, you can say like Cabernet Sauvignon is a sharp wine, bold and powerful with kickback like the 44 141 Javelin Alpha. Carrying a handheld bazooka around is a big commitment, even for giant robots. It takes excellent precision and timing to land a shot on any opponent who knows the first thing about how to pilot a machine, and simple boost to the left or right in the explosive misses. On the other hand, the foppish taste of Pinot Noir is said to require a delicate palate to appreciate. It's thin and subtle, but also strong enough to, after a full glass, tell mom about the girl you might have gotten pregnant when you were in middle school. Or maybe the girl was lying to get back at you. Actually, I write about this later on, which I totally forgot about. For breaking up with her, etc., etc. So I draw these different types of wine. Pinot Noir is like the Chang Chen, which is a weapon in the game. I just try to draw these parallels between the wine and the weapons. So the point of this section was to draw a parallel between the different types of alcohol and how they correlate to the weapons in the game, but also sound as cool as possible. Yeah. I tried to weave gameplay with, elements of drugs and addiction in here. And
the ultimate warning of how like drugs and addiction is really a gateway to like incestuous fantasies, right?
True. Yeah, that was also the intent.
Which is the pornographic zeitgeist, right? That's the spirit of the age, right? On most porn sites is incest. So
is it?
I think we're nailing all. You ain't seen stepbro stuff. You ain't seen stepsis stuff. I don't watch it personally. I don't do that. I'm too righteous. But I've heard that some people. I would never even read such. I would look at the pictures, but I would never read.
Right.
Yeah. I'll check it out to know what to avoid. If I'm honest, like to know what things not to watch, I will watch in its entirety.
Right.
Incestuous pornography.
Just watch
but that is just to know.
Illegal stuff. I'm just watching it just to know.
Just to know absolutely what it is. Because to avoid a thing, you have to know a thing. The fundamental character has to be observed. Right? I have to know that I don't like it, right?
You have to murder people to know not to do it. Right?
At least one.
At least
I
one
think.
person. Yeah, I agree. At least one. I mean, everybody's
Right,
done
and
it.
then like,
Right? Everybody's done it at least one.
well, no one wants to say it, but I mean, come on, right? There's those people that don't matter, right? There's people that, like, just the people that have no family that have been shunned.
Right.
They usually they've got a shopping cart and they're not in a parking lot somewhere.
Exactly.
They're on the road.
Yeah.
So
Nobody's gonna miss them, right? So those are the type of people. That's why God put those people on the planet, was so that you could do the thing and then know not to do the thing. Because you need to do something to know its true essence.
I do, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to. You have to experience a thing, truly. To know a thing, right? To know a person, you have to spend time with that person. So to know a concept, I think the argument that someone has to murder, I'm fine with like a law that says everybody gets one, right?
Everybody gets one, yeah.
You
Exactly.
get one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
all right,
it's fine.
Yeah. I do want to go back. I think because we were muted, and I don't know if I missed this, but like again, I wanted to. Oh yeah, I think I missed this part, but the whole part about the robots and going to Hobby Lobby, I wanted to weave in a story about. Was I muted when I talked about this? But I wanted to weave in the story about Hobby Lobby and this girl at Hobby Lobby, right? Who was a punk rocker, but also working at the religious Hobby Lobby, and I thought that dichotomy there was interesting. But I also wanted to cement this essay in a certain time, so I put something that I was doing at the time of writing the essay in the essay, so that I, kind of cemented it in 2023 of ever. It was probably October. Or, I think your next question. What is your next question?
We are talking about addiction, and I said this should be good. You have a lot of good takes on, I think, addiction, what it is, how it manifests in different people, what it says about a person. And if you want to explore that part of the essay, or talk about any topics, sections.
So I think addiction's interesting. I know about addiction because, like we were talking about just now, I know intimately about addiction because I'm pretty much an addict. What is addiction about? I've done a good amount of drugs, but I haven't been addicted to much except probably alcohol and definitely cigarettes. And obviously the most dangerous one of those is alcohol. I think alcohol is probably one of the worst ones you can be addicted to, which is so ironic because it's the only majorly legal one, right? Mm-hmm. But I stopped smoking over a year ago because it sucked. I was thinking about cigarettes all the time, making sure, to stop everything I was doing. So I could smoke every hour. I would be playing a game, having fun, but then, oh man, I need a cigarette, and I'd have to go outside and smoke a cigarette. And it became really big chore and a drag, really. And when I started thinking about it, I was like, I just don't want to do this anymore. I want to be able to sit down and just do what I want to do without having to interrupt myself to smoke or whatever. Some people get addicted to weed mentally or whatever, but weed makes me borderline suicidal, so I don't do that for fun unless I'm drinking, which for some reason it works if I'm drunk. The quote in the banner from the kind of relates to the addiction bit. The only true freedom is freedom from the heart's desire. If you're addicted, your desire is so strong it overrides your common senses and your autonomy almost. When I needed to stop writing or play a computer game because I needed to go outside to smoke, right? It's kind of overriding my base want, which is I want to sit here and play the computer game. So yeah, that's kind of what the quote is about. There's a section in this essay also that's called, it's chapter 6, section 4, and it says, I'm not an addict. This whole part is basically why, just an explanation of how I am an addict. It's basically written from the perspective of someone who's telling themselves that they're not alcoholic and all the reasons why they're not alcoholic. I think about drinking alcohol constantly, but it's okay because I'm high functioning and it doesn't impact my work or the way I treat my family, and I only drink after the sun goes down, and I try to only drink on the weekends, but also sometimes when I have a stressful day at work or when I'm really happy or when a great thing happens to me like a promotion because I deserve to treat myself to a good time once in a while. I also write better when I'm drunk and it makes me more sociable. The last part is key because I would be an insufferable loser if I didn't drink at social outings. It's sad but true. People only like me when I'm drunk. I'm outgoing, witty, and fun to be around when I'm drunk. I'm more when I drink, I'm more articulate. I don't hate my friends when I'm drinking, and I don't get frustrated as much, etc., etc. This whole section goes on this. So this is kind of this is just a personal thing. Like I drink a lot, and these are the kind of the things I would tell myself. So I was trying to be genuine in this section.
Yeah, it's good.
And at the end, it's like
I just love the cops. I just love that part about that lady and the cops, because in real life she has, like, now in retrospect, I kind of realized why she's so sensitive, right, about you joking about the cops, because that is a thing that's happened to her.
Oh yeah, it goes into that. It says, "I'm not as bad as my neighbor." Or is it? Who? Oh, if I was a true alcoholic, I would be like my neighbor who once tried to choke me for telling a tongue-in-cheek joke about calling the cops on her. And then in parentheses it says, "What did you just say? You're going to do what? Are you serious? How could you even say that?" But really, it was because she mixed vodka and Risperdal, which the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, officially advises against. You should know that alcohol can add to the drowsiness caused by this medication, blah, 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 blah. I think it's safe to say that I'm not like her. So this, again, is just another thing that's like, I'm looking at somebody much worse than I am and saying, like, okay, I'm not like her at least, so, like, I can keep drinking. Yeah. But basically, my neighbor has been arrested several times for just being drunk and terrible in public, and somehow she gets out and is back home like the next day every time. I don't know how that works. And if I gave you her name, you can actually search her on Google and pull up like 12 different arrest records with her picture.
Right.
So I'm not sure why she's not just in jail permanently right now, but I don't know. It's just weird. Yeah. I like this section. I think it's good. I think this whole section about drugs is really good. Actually, one of my favorite parts of an essay that I've written, for sure.
I'm just thinking more about it. Were there any other parts? The addiction part was such a big. Oh, I mean, I don't know. What are the criteria for things that we can get addicted to? Like, not food, but you can't, right? Like certain types of food, but you have to have food. Like, addiction is like really like getting your body used to these things. I don't know, it doesn't just have to be drugs. It could be gambling or sex or video games.
Yeah, you can get addicted to anything, really. It's kind of bizarre, isn't it? I think humanity is like programmed to become addicted to stuff. I think some people have this like switch in their brain that they can't turn off. Like, I think I'm one of those people who like just does stuff to excess until I'm just utterly bored of it, or I'm a hopeless addict for like drinking. But like computer games, if I'm into a game, like I always play it constantly, and I won't give a fuck about people around me. And that's just kind of my personality. And I think a lot of people who are addicts are kind of like that as well. Again, you can get addicted to anything, right? You can get addicted to like fucking people. Like the guy from X-Files, I think is Fox Mulder or whatever his actual name is in real life. He apparently has like this sex addiction or whatever, and has like sex with everybody. He can't stop. And it's STDs.
He won't stop.
Like he won't stop. He had to go to like sex counseling or like stuff. Like people get addicted to sex. People get addicted to all sorts of crazy shit. And
I believe in addiction. I don't believe in. I think the sex addiction, I think, is bullshit. I think it's just
why
don't.
Do you think that?
Yeah, just why do you have to? Like, oh, I'm gonna go out and like this person has AIDS, but I'm so addicted to sex, I'm gonna do it. I don't buy it.
You make excuses like I do in that section of the essay where it's just like, well, I used a condom and like I pulled out and like they pulled out and like you're not gonna give me AIDS, right? And then 2 months later you find out that you're HIV positive or whatever, and I don't know. People rationalize shit like crazy, You do it, I do it, everybody does it. Just people will rationalize the craziest fucking shit, right?
It's like, yeah. I agree.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I wonder why, like, biologically we're like this. Why would we rationalize having sex with HIV positive people? What's the What's the imperative there? Like, I don't get it.
I can't answer that question. I can't answer that. I think it makes sense why we get addicted. I think if something feels good, if we like something, we're gonna do that thing as often as we can.
Right. Yeah. For sure.
But I think there's ways to get the sensation of you can masturbate as opposed to having sex with an AIDS person, AIDS riddled character.
Yeah, but it's not the same. I think there's also the idea of like some things are very how do you say, they're like the risk is so far out in the future that you can rationalize it away, right? So like, oh, this person has AIDS, but like that's not going to be a problem for me. That's not going to be a problem for me for like 10 years. Even if I get it, and I'm not going to get it because I wore a condom and I pulled, or they wore a condom and they pulled out or whatever, and so of course I'm not going to get it. And if I do, I won't have to worry about it for 10 years. But all the while, these people are selfish as fuck because they're going around potentially just giving everybody HIV. Really, they should be testing, and like, if they're responsible, they would be testing it themselves. But I don't know. All the best stuff in the world is dangerous. That's also a problem, That's also a big
Not
problem.
playing with toys, right? Like playing with toys, like unless the toy has AIDS on it, like there's nothing wrong with playing with toys.
That's true.
And people make fun of like the toy addict way more than they make fun of like David Duchovny, right?
Oh, David.
And like there's David Duchovny. Yeah, there he is, like having sex with AIDS, and like, but he'll get an award, right? But like, goddamn, like you play with a toy, like you're a kid baby, and I think that's
You're a kid baby. Yeah, that's true.
I think it's fucking wrong. One, I think that's wrong, and 12. Let's go back to the planet Rubicon.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the war that's going on, and let's talk about corporatocracy and the way that manifests in the story, so that we can hopefully go into what I thought was one of the more ambitious and entertaining parts of the essay, which is the bag boy bolero.
Sure. So the war. So there are like 4 big corporations on Rubicon 3. They all want the coral, because it's a superpower source. And the coral is similar to oil, right? So I drew that parallel between oil and coral with Operation Iraqi Freedom, which is an absurd name to me, right? Iraqi Freedom. The freedom bit is ironic because we went in there and like took over their little huts and settlements and forced all sorts of things on them, and then basically just to get the oil, right? And then we just dipped out literally a year ago because it didn't fucking work. Like, we dipped out, and now they're back in the same spot with like the terrorist group pretty much ruling.
The Taliban took right back over, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So we
like
went in
there. Month later.
Yeah, we went in there, Operation Iraqi Freedom, tried to get the oil. I think we did get a lot of the oil or whatever, and then we left. And people died. It was an overwhelming success. It was amazing. So yeah, I draw a parallel between that and corporations, kind of. This corporation's trying to get the oil, and in this case, the coral. It's not really important, like the exact details of the game, right? There are a bunch of corporations. There's no overarching government on Rubicon 3. It's like a lawless, anarchistic area. That's basically, if you have a lot of firepower and you have a lot of money and you're a big corporation, you can just go in and do whatever you want. That's what happens. And there's 4 of those, and they just fight each other constantly for coral. The funny thing is, like, you're a mercenary, so some of these corporations will like hire you to do jobs for them. And there's situations where like Corporation 1 will hire you to kill somebody from Corporation 2, and then Corporation 2 for the next mission will call you and be like, we want you to get revenge on Corporation 1 for what they just did to us, but you just did it to them.
Yeah.
They don't care about that because you're just a weapon to them, right? You're just like a weapon that they pay to do stuff. So like, yeah, they paid you to kill our president, but now I'm paying you to kill their president. It's just you're just a weapon to them. That's what the Armored Corps and the augmented humans and your character is. And the whole freedom bit, I think I get into this later, but the whole freedom bit is like the Raven's supposed to represent freedom in this game, and you get this honorific Raven, and you're supposed to take up the mantle of the Raven pretty much, and make free will choices. But every ending in this game, well, first let's start with what you are. You're a mercenary, and you take jobs from other people. You never really have a choice for anything you do in this game. So that's strike one against freedom, right? Your character doesn't really choose anything. You're just sold out to the highest bidder. Two, there's 3 different endings in the game that are all significant, but they're all just you doing something for somebody else. The first ending is Handler Walter wants you to destroy all the coral because he thinks it's evil for whatever fucking reason, and you do that, and you do Handler Walter's will. That's not free. You're not making your own choice in that situation. You're just a puppet for Handler Walter in that situation. In the second ending, there's it's called the Liberation ending, and you work with the Rubicon Liberation Front to drive the corporations away. But even in this ending, which I would consider it the good ending because it doesn't end in a complete genocide, at least not immediately, you're still just doing stuff that the corporations want you to do, and that's led by a specific person as well. I forget their name right now, but you side with them and do what they want to do, and they happen to want to liberate the Rubicon. In this case, you're also a puppet for that person. And then the final ending is the AI. It's called the All Mind. You basically do what All Mind wants you to do, and in that situation, you're a puppet for the All Mind. So ultimately, you're not actually free at all in this game. The Raven is just a misnomer, and the whole. I don't know if they're trying to be ironic or what, but you're not free. Your character's not free. Your character's a puppet. The whole game. There's no freedom anywhere in this game. So the bag boy stuff, I guess, gets into that. So in this situation, it's kind of like anarcho-capitalism is how I see the Rubicon 3 situation. Basically, it's whoever has the most power can go in and dominate and take over the resources, which is what I think would happen in anarcho-capitalism, which the game made me think about a lot. So I'm sure you're familiar with anarcho-capitalism, but if anybody's watching, ANCAP is a libertarian political philosophy or economic theory that seeks to abolish the state or the centralized states in favor of a completely stateless society. This is where the anarchy bit comes in. And this stateless society, according to ANCAP, would still have systems of private property. And they believe that this will work by using this concept known as the non-aggression principle, which is basically the fundamental principle of what they think is a fundamental principle of morality that states that any person is permitted to do anything they want with their property except aggress on other people. So you're not allowed to aggress on other people because you're violating their autonomy. Basically, don't encroach on people's private property or aggress on others. It's kind of like a big golden rule type of thing. I don't want to do what other people, I wouldn't want to do mean stuff to other people because I wouldn't want that to be done on me. And ANCAP people just kind of assume that this principle is just floating around in the ether, and it would just work and make their little ANCAP fantasy world work properly. But basically what happens with ANCAP, I think, is that it just devolves into resource wars, which the story, Armored Core 3, is proof of, but also the story in the essay, which is the biggest part of the essay, which is called Bag Boy Bolero Or, and the important part is the or here, because I kind of tell you what the whole part of what the whole essay is about. But it's a measured critique of anarcho-capitalism. And the measured part is tongue-in-cheek because this is not measured at all. This is told in a very absurdist way, completely ridiculous story. But basically, it outlines the president. The president of the United States. He signs a bill that gets rid of all laws, and somebody quickly assassinates him. And then Walmart comes in and says, "Hey, to prevent future assassinations, we'll bring in our." We'll buy out the police force and the army, and we'll take control and all this crap. But anyways, McDonald's and Walmart pretty much try to take over everything in the aftermath, and they do. And Walmart kind of takes over Asia and starts making all these big Walmarts and all this other shit. It's a lot more detailed. I have to read through it. But anyways, McDonald's takes over the farm in America. And I go over one thing here. They take over all the farms. I want to go over one of the things. So basically, Walmart and McDonald's take over everything, right? Because they have the most power, they have the most resources, so they control everything. And McDonald's starts doing crazy shit. There's no laws, right? So McDonald's has these. Oh, here it is. Yeah. I added this because I think this is what would happen if we didn't have any laws. So McDonald's seizure of the entire West Coast led to oceanic animal factory farms being erected on every beach. Gigantic metal death obelisks loomed over every horizon with massive mechanical hands reaching out from the obelisk over the ocean, scooping up matured dolphins and crushing them in their robotic palms before dumping their tenderized bodies into the flesh buckets for processing. The stench of blood and pus permeated every inch of smellable air outwards of 100 miles from every coast, so much so that the entire West Coast became known as the Banks of Ammonia. So basically, I think this is kind of shit that would happen if we had, like, just corporations do whatever they wanted without any sort of regulation. And that's what ANCAP would kind of devolve into, I think. So, I know I'm rambling here, sorry. Basically, Walmart...
No, it's fine.
Walmart figured out a way to take over McDonald's, and they do, and they get rid of McDonald's, and they finally, Walmart takes over everything, and now Walmart's like the de facto ruler of the world because they seized all the resources. So Walmart basically oppresses everyone, and they own everything now, but at some point, somebody like burns themselves alive, and it starts a revolt, and this revolt, after months, leads to the creation of a government because Walmart can't control its own citizens anymore because they're all revolting and killing each other and like trying to, you know, overthrow Walmart basically, because Walmart's the government at this point, right? Because ANCAP is circled around back into Walmart being the fucking government.
It kind of seems like ANCAP is kind of like not that. I mean, okay, so like what I think to a layman, I'm gonna try to explain this. I'm kind of fucked up. Like I'm gonna try to explain this. Like to a layman. And by layman, I mean anyone that's not you or me, right? For this example. Mm-hmm. To a layman, the idea that Walmart might become the government and that little children might say, I pledge allegiance to Walmart, because Walmart has, through anarcho-capitalism or some sort of perverted or non-perverted, just naturalistic libertarianism, because Walmart has assumed control of all the resources, now kids are going to say, the pledge allegiance to Walmart. That seems really fucked up. But that's not that different than what we do now. The name is just different, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the whole. That's kind of like the point, right?
Same cocksuckers in the buildings that are using the that you mentioned in the essay about the drones with the Xbox controllers, right? It's still the same cocksuckers in control, whether they're calling it Walmart or you're calling it United States of America. It's the same stuff.
Yeah,
I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So ANCAP, I think, would just it would evolve into a government, and the government would be whoever controls the most resources. And probably, it might not be just Walmart, it would probably be multiples, and they'd probably be at war with each other, kind of like what's going on at the Rubicon. Yeah. But there could be a situation where just one takes over everything, and in this situation, it's Walmart. Walmart becomes its own government in this way. Somebody kills themselves and there's a revolt, and then eventually they sit down and they all write like a constitution that's very similar to America's constitution, and everything kind of goes back to normal after, you know, democratically elected things and whatnot, et cetera, et cetera. So it comes all around. The problem with ANCAP is that ANCAP has been tested and it's been shown to not work, or it's been shown that what this essay says happens actually happens. This essay is accurate because it's self-evident, because the natural state of humanity is freaking ANCAP. The natural state is anarchy. Rules and regulations evolved because anarchy didn't fucking work. That's why. Yeah. If anarchy worked to begin with, we wouldn't even have rules or regulations or governments or states to begin with, because they wouldn't be necessary. Because if anarchy is just, you know, something that works by default, which you would have to grant if you're an anarchist, because you're saying no laws, no state, etc., etc., you'd have to grant that that'll just work. It doesn't, because we've already seen that it doesn't work. Just looking out the fucking window, right? Mm-hmm. Cavemen or whatever, tribalism turned into feudalism. Feudalism was fucking terrible. Feudalism came other things, and then eventually monarchy, and then monarchy, nobody liked that. So it came democracy, which is kind of like what we have now. Who knows what's next? But it's all just come full circle. Anarchy is not a real thing. Anarchy is a meme. It's stupid, and that's what this essay tries. That's what this essay tries to think. And if somebody says they're an anarchist, I legitimately think they just haven't thought of it. I don't know if they're stupid. They just haven't thought about it. They think it's cool. It's cool, you know. It's stupid.
Yeah.
Anarchy's dumb. I think it's just not something that works. Or if it does, you could start it potentially, but it's just going to come full circle back to governments. That's it. And the government might be Walmart. Yeah. The government might be Walmart in that case. And you might not call it a government. I would call it Walmart. You might not call it a state, but it would functionally the same, right? So
Walmart, yeah.
Yeah. That's what this whole thing is about. And then eventually it says at the very end, the last line is the Ouroboros takes another bite. So because it's just circular. So if you initiated anarchy somehow, it would just come back to, hard times, and then eventually back to some sort of okay times. And then if you initiated anarchy again, it would just circle back, basically. That's what this is about.
Cool. What about the I'm looking at it. I don't think I asked a question about this, but what about the Ronald Reagan's ice worm? What's that section about?
So Ronald Reagan's ice worm, I really wanted to add this part into the essay. I don't think I did it very well because it's just kind of pigeonholed in. But basically, at one point in the game, all of the corporations team up because there's this other organization called the PCA, which comes into planets and closes them down, and they have a lot of power, and they just come in, and if they see danger, they come in and they're like, we're closing this planet down, and you need to get the fuck off or we're going to kill you. So the PCA comes in, and all the corporations are like, holy shit, the PCA is really powerful, we can't match them on our own, and they're gonna take our they're gonna make it so we can't get the coral, and they want the coral. So they all sit down at a table and they're like, how will we work together to get rid of the PCA? So the PCA becomes this big boogeyman that the corporations all drop everything that they're doing. They stop killing each other for the coral, and they're like, actually, let's formulate a plan to get rid of the PCA. So Ronald Reagan said, and I think it was the 70s, in his address to the 42nd session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, just cited here, in our obsession with antagonism of the moment, we often forget how much unites all members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside, universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? So in this, I draw the parallel that the alien force is just the PCA, and all of the corporations are uniting to get rid of the alien threat. And that's what this goes through. The funny thing about this part, this is a short section, but once you get rid of the PCA, ultimately, literally the next day, one of the corporations took advantage of the chaos to seize all the PCA's equipment, and now they're killing everybody again. So right when the PCA's gone, they're just back to their old shit and just killing each other again. And it's just interesting. It just kind of fulfills Ronald Reagan's prophecy. I don't really like Ronald Reagan's policies. I just like this quote. I think it's interesting.
That's I don't remember if you mentioned it, but is that the it's like Watchmen, right? Isn't that what the end of the Watchmen?
Yeah, it is exactly in the comic. The end of the Watchmen is Ozymandias. He makes a fake alien to scare everybody into uniting. And then the movie fucked that up, and it was a real alien. That wasn't it? In the movie, they changed it into a real alien.
It was he's got an atomic bomb, right? Was it Dr. Manhattan is an atomic bomb or something? I don't think they had the aliens.
Oh, in the movie, it was Dr. Manhattan did the atomic bomb. In the right. I remember it was different somehow. In the comic, he just summons he creates this fake Lovecraftian octopus monster. Yeah, and then drops it. And then he drops it on New York or something, and it just freaks everybody out.
Yeah,
And
and they unite or whatever against the common enemy.
have you seen the HBO sequel to that? To the HBO sequel is a sequel to the comic. It's not a sequel to the movie, and it's basically like Ozymandias. It's okay. It's not great, but it follows up from like Ozymandias is like keeping the lie going. He actually starts like this thing where aliens or like these octopus alien jellyfish like rain from the sky every few months, and like to keep the lie going. It's like how he's doing it, but like it's still fake. But it's like still jellyfish. He's like doing it somehow, right? But like it's all fake still. He's just like keeping the lie up for like a long time. It's just very interesting.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what this is about. Ronald Reagan. Yeah. All right. Next question.
I was in this one comes from the section featuring the Berserk stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever you want to talk about, the central points and themes there, leading up to and including the comparison between, or my perceived comparison between Guts and Griffith and Raven Iguazu, in the game. Just that section there, all the stuff you talk about there.
Sure. Yeah, I think this is the weakest part of the essay, and I really just wanted to put some Berserk stuff in here. I don't know why, but I was running out of steam at this point because this is like already like 1,000 or 150,000 or so. I don't remember. It's a lot of words. Or I don't know how many words, but it's a lot of words, right? I was running out of steam. I probably could have done this part a lot better, but I'll go through both of them. So I try to make a parallel between Griffith and Guts from Berserk, and there's this to understand it. There's this character named Iguazu, who's really like an inconsequential character for both of the your first two playthroughs of the game. He's just a minor mercenary that you fight and you just body him, and he's just like fuck you. And the third time you replay the game and you're getting the third ending, like he starts like popping up more, just kind of weirdly at certain places, like trying to kill you, but you beat him every time. But at the end of the game, it turns out that he's actually the final boss, and he like trades his soul to the AI to get like ultimate power. And his only reason for doing this is because you bodied him so badly. It's the only reason. He just hates you. Like he's just very envious, and he's like, "Fuck you!" Like you're better than me, and I fucking hate you. And that's a relatable thing. But also, like I wanted to draw the comparison that Iguazu in this way was sort of like Griffith, but he's not really like Griffith in a lot of ways. So I think the parallel is really strained, but I think there's things there. So like I think he's not like Griffith so much, but Griffith was a gifted, smart individual from the beginning, right? Iguazu's not. Iguazu's just a punk. So he's not like Griffith in that way. But in the secret ending, he trades his soul and his humanity pretty much for ultimate power based on a lot of negative emotion. So I saw this as very similar to Griffith trading his humanity and soul for ultimate power during the eclipse in Berserk.
Right, yeah.
And Griffith just does this out of like a lot of negative emotions mostly. Like he'll tell you it's for like his dream of a perfect world or Arcadia or whatever the fuck, right? But really the reason he does it is because like he went through all that torture and like he's jealous of Guts for a number of reasons, and Guts basically dumped his ass, and he trades his humanity out because of envy, jealousy, and depression and anger, pretty much, right? I think that's accurate. I'm not a Berserk pro, but like I think that's why. And he becomes like a total fucking monster demon and becomes ultimately powerful, and in that way he's similar to Iguazu. I think the coolest part in this game is Iguazu just at the very end, just showing up and trying to kill you. That's my favorite part of the game because I think it's relatable. I think a lot of people feel that way about their friends or other people that they think are better than them. Not everybody trades power to fuck everybody over, but it's something that people think about, right? And Iguazu is just like, hey, like what if you were given the opportunity to do that, would you do it? And Iguazu did. For Guts, I think I try to make the comparison to Guts to 621 or Raven as well, but I don't think the comparison works there either. They're both flawed comparisons. So for Raven, I think it's a little bit better. But for Raven, it's kind of like Raven. The game wants you to think that Raven is kind of like Guts almost. Raven is supposed to be like Guts, but really, Raven is nothing like Guts. Guts is somebody who goes his own way and tries to find his own meaning and his own freedom and his own path. That's kind of like what Guts does when he dumps Griffith during the Golden Age arc, right? He's like, I'm not going to follow you anymore, I'm going to do my own thing. And that's a key defining moment for Guts. But the Raven is supposed to be kind of like Guts in the story, but he's nothing like him. Because Guts followed Griffith, right? But eventually Guts leaves Griffith and goes his own way. Raven never does this. He literally never leaves anything. He never makes his own choices. And part of that is you're the player, and you can't really make a choice. But the game doesn't give you like a fourth option where it's just like, I'm going to leave the planet and like not fuck around with these crazy people, or anything that would indicate what Raven actually wants to truly do. Raven never does anything that he truly wants to do. He's always a puppet. In all 3 endings, he's a puppet. And I don't think Guts would have done anything like that. He would have gone his own way. Raven never does. So at the end of this essay, I make that comparison, I think, at the end. Yeah, it's right here. So 621, quoth the Raven. But the Raven realized that 621 is a twofold genocidal disruptor simply taking orders from people who actually have a purpose. In this case, people who actually have a purpose is somebody like Griffith. 621, like Guts before them, served the Arcadia of others, like Griffith's dream. Yet, unlike Guts, 621 never corrected this mistake, so the Raven flew away. And the Raven flew away because the Raven's freedom, in this essay, the Raven represents freedom, and the Raven's flying away because, dude, you don't have no freedom. You're a fucking puppet. You don't deserve to be called Raven. You're not a Raven. You're just a number, bro. You're cringe. So the Raven goes away. That's what happens. The Raven leaves because you're cringe. And and that's it. The Raven's the title, and honorific. It faded. It flew away because the Raven's freedom and free will, and 621 has no freedom or free will. And that's kind of it about the parallel there.
So what is I'll do the last. I think we can do the last 3 together. They all kind of fit, kind of like the wrap up theme. Mm-hmm. What's the best, worst thing about Armored Core 6? Is there anything that we missed because it was a very long piece? Not to a fault though. There's just a lot of really good meandering, albeit with very good content there. And then I will demand a numerical review score. I need to know exactly to the 10th place decimal point what the score is of this game to know if I can play it, if I should play it or not.
Right, so the 10th place decimal score of the game, we'll get to that, I guess. What's the best? What was your question? I'm sorry. What was the best and worst part of the game? Is that what your question was?
The best part and the worst part of the game. Yeah.
The best part is it's legit one of the most fun games I've ever played. It's like super fast, fluid. It's responsive. It's customizable. It's got a lot of cool stuff going on. The worst part, like the music, sucks. I think the music really sucks. There's a lot of reused content, like we were talking about. Like a lot of the maps you go back to, and there's 10 different ones probably. I don't know. I haven't really played this game in a long time, actually, like several months. So I don't know, what exactly would be bad. There's the balance is not that good. Like some weapons are just really, really good. Like dual wielding shotguns. When I played, it was like the best thing you could do. Like there was no reason not to do it if you wanted to do the maximum damage. Like you can beat the game without it, and that's fine. But they were very overpowered. So were a few other weapons. So there's balancing issues. Music's not that great. Reused content. Other than that, it's super fun. It's
How about the load times? Was the load times good? They have good load times?
Yeah, the load times are great. Good load times.
Good. You go ahead.
Also, this is one of those games. It's really fun. When you're I use the shotgun build a lot, and when I shoot the shotguns, you get a kick when you do it. You're yes, this game makes you do that with a lot of the weapons. Physically, when you shoot, feel it. You kind of feel it.
And that's really good. RPGs don't really do that. Only action games kind of do that. When you do an action and the button you do actually correlates to something immediately happening on the screen, and it kind of makes you physically in the game almost like, feel like a kickback or like, only action games do that, I think, which is a interesting thing about action games. I think shooters do it too, but I would consider like an FPS an action game, just an offshoot of an action game.
Yeah. Something that's not turn-based, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking cringe shit. Is there any chapters that we've missed, or any big themes that we've failed to cover? I tried to hit all the big the big sections. Is there anything you'd like to add, or anything you'd like to mention?
No, I would like to say that the muted part pissed me off. Really sucks. It's gonna make the video like all sorts of messed up now and not comprehensible, kind of like the essay. But I guess it relates in that way. I do want to add that the pictures of the Raven, at least the beginning and the last one where it says "end" here, are taken from this person. Her name's Handmade Ghost on Mastodon. I asked her for permission to use Raven pictures. This woman's always posting like bird pics. You can like literally all the time. So I asked her like, "Do you have any real pictures of ravens?" And she sent me a bunch. So I used them, and then I credited her because I told her I would. Originally, I was going to make every picture like ravens and have like no game pictures. That was like the original thought. And I was like, that's not going to work very well. So I just put ravens in every picture instead. A lot of the ravens that are in the pictures are not her pictures. Really, her pictures are only this first picture and then the last one. The other ones I just like stock pictures of raven I found on Google and then like, superimposed into the images. I will say, I don't know. I think we covered everything. Actually, I think the only thing we didn't cover was just the sections about the game, which like the story parts of the game, explaining the game. And I just want to say, like, I really don't like. Those are the worst parts of this essay. If I could probably trim out all of that, I think this would be like really, really good essay. But I think all the stuff about how the game's plot plays out and having to explain all these endings. I didn't have to. I just did, and I should have just not. I should have just not did that. Probably.
Yeah. It's hard. I'm writing about Final Fantasy 13, and I'm writing about the game a little bit, and sometimes I'm just like, it's like I don't think I'm doing a good job, or I am, or I'm not. But it doesn't matter. It's just like I just play the game, Just like if I want to play my gameplay, just you play it and let me talk about the crazy shit. And I don't know, you press up and the character goes up,
Yeah.
It's like I think about writing my game. Yeah.
It's kind of really bullshit, and that's what I've been. To go off topic, like I made that video, which I like the video. I think it's a little bit. I'm making another video actually, and it's just a retelling of my Final Fantasy Legend 2 essay, which is actually a short essay. And that one's more of like a review, because I tried to make that like a short essay that was something like an IGN review or something, right? That was kind of like the intention on that one, was just like to write a straight game review, which my thoughts on the game and why, if I like the game and like how it plays, So I think that works as a video. I don't know if I'm going to write an essay again unless I have like a true essay, unless I have really something important to say. Like this essay, I had important stuff to say. In the God one, I had like stuff that I felt was important to say. I have to feel like it's important. It might not be important to other people, but I have to feel like it's important. And I'm not going to just write to write anymore. I have to feel like it's important. Like the Sengoku rants one, I felt strongly about that topic, and I felt that was important. To be honest, the next thing I was thinking about writing about was I was going to play the original Sims game, and then try to tie it into like how simulated and like bullshit our society is now, with us being like obsessed with technology and smartphones and being like totally lost humanity wise. That's what I was trying to think, and maybe if I could tie Sims into that, but I don't know if I could. Maybe I could think of a way, but I don't know.
Sims is a great game. Sims is great.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential there to write about stuff with Sims, because everybody knows how Sims plays. You just make a family and they just do weird stuff in the family.
Yeah.
It's not like this deep stuff you have to explain about the gameplay for people to understand what it's about. So there's a lot of potential there to like weave in stuff if I wanted to, but like I said, I'm not going to write an essay again unless I have a real important thing that I feel like is important to talk about. If I do, like Fantasy Star, I made a video there because I didn't really have much important to say. But the cool thing came out like while I was writing it, actually. So, because we got into that fight, and then like I actually was incorporating stuff about Cool, like and Gary and all that stuff in there. And then at the end, I was like, I was gonna tie it into myself, but I used a lot of examples from like our fight that we had in that section, which you probably realized, right? Like I tied it all in there.
Of course.
So like while I was making that probably could have been a written essay, and it probably would have been better as a written essay because I would have refined it more. Because I think it has a good point, and I think there's other things. And I think there's other points in there that I don't touch on, like the fact of like consciously not being cool is like almost another way of being cool. Like I could have touched on that as well, which I didn't. But that essay. That ended up having some sort of point as well, so I could have written about that, but that just kind of happened. But like I said, I'm not going to write anymore unless I have something really that I feel is important to write about. For Final Fantasy 13, do you have like a point that you're trying to write about? If not, that's fine. I mean, that's just what I'm doing. I'm just wondering if there's like an overarching like thing.
I won't try to write short things, and I don't really know how to write. So the point is that Final Fantasy 13. There's this. It's complicated. I'm trying to explain it in the article. I'm looking at it right now. The point is that there are two. No. The answer is no. There's no point. The answer is I'm looking at it. There's no goddamn point. There's nothing.
I don't believe you. All your essays have a point. I don't believe it.
I've used it.
Unless it's just so early that you just haven't. Yeah.
I mean, there's a concept. There's this word called immanence and transcendence, and there's philosophies of immanence and transcendence. Mm-hmm. And I don't really understand it, but I was reading about it recently, and I was thinking about it, and I'm trying to understand it. And it was right around the time I was beating Final Fantasy 13, and I was like, so I've written a whole introduction to the essay, and it's like, okay, when I write these kinds of essays, I'm just looking at these video games, and I'm just being like, how can I break these in half and apply them to whatever I'm trying to learn about? And so the introduction does that, and it also tries to self-reference the fact that, that guy that was online that was like, hey, you just use all the big words because you want to sound smart. Mm-hmm. And the essay is like, I don't care if you feel that. The first part, he was like, I don't care if you feel that way. Just fucking read it. If you don't understand it, I don't care. Just read it. Yeah. And the story helps me understand this thing. Mm-hmm. But then I have to talk about the game because you have to understand the story.
And I don't like 5,000 words into the mechanics of the game. That has to be in that.
Right, and I don't want to talk about that. It's okay. Oh, this character and this character's backstory, and in this character and this character's backstory. So
yeah, that's the worst part, isn't it? Like, whenever I write shit, like with my God, like when Fishing for God one, I literally don't do it. That's the last essay I wrote, and I just didn't do it. Like I refused, and I even put like in the parentheses like my justification for why I'm doing it. It's just basically I just don't like doing it, and I'm not going to do it. Like if you're interested in the game, go play the fucking game. This essay is about God. Like that's it.
You did good then, because I feel like I got enough from just the story part, like the first section. Mm-hmm. It gave me enough of the premise to understand. I guess that's the problem. Is like Final Fantasy 13 story. It's just a little bit, just not a lot. It's just a little bit more complicated than Fishing for God, than that game's. So it's hard to like. It's just hard to explain because that's what's really cool. That's what's really cool about that essay about Fishing for God is that I feel like I left that essay really understanding both the game and the larger point you're trying to make. That was really cool. That was a good one. I can't wait to do a video about that one. That was a great read.
But like you said,
just don't hit the mute button. Don't hit it. Hit a different button.
Yeah, but like you said, but Fishing for God is like Legend of the River King is such a simple game. It's just like you go fish, and then you catch fish. That's it. The weird thing about
the weird thing about Legend of the Wyver King though is that like there's these like weirdo RPG elements where like animals attack you. And it happens. Yeah. It doesn't even happen that often.
Bears and shit.
Yeah, it doesn't even happen that often, and it's not really threatening. And if you die in that game, you just wake up in your house, and nothing. There's no consequence. There's really no consequence.
You just go back out.
You just go back outside. Yeah. In that essay, I wanted to at the end write like another like kind of fictional piece about how the kid wakes up and does it all over again. But I was burned out, like I am at the end of every essay. I was just like, I want to be done with this. So I didn't do that. But I think the essay would have been better if I did that. Like went back in and kind of circled back to the fictional part, and then was like, oh, I wake up and I go back and just do it all over again and try to get the fucking rainbow fish. And that's probably how that essay should have ended. Is just like goes back into the fictional story, and he wakes up after the bear kills him, and then he goes back out and goes fishing again, and then he's like, maybe if I do this enough, I'll catch God. That probably would have been a better ending. But I just get so burned out because I got ADD, so I'm just like, I've been doing this.
So let's just want to end it.
I've been doing this for 2 weeks or 3 weeks in some cases. Raven I wrote for like a fucking month. And I was just like,
that was a long one.
Yeah, I was like, I'm done with this. Like, I'm bored. I'm mentally past this, So I'm just like going through the motions at that point.
Yeah.
All right, let's circle back because I think you had one question. Your numerical score. I gave Armored Core 6. I gave Armored Core 6 a. What did I get? I gave it a real score in that essay, didn't I?
Did Yeah, it's in the section, right? Didn't you redact it? Was it redacted? Wasn't that the twist?
Yeah, I mean that was the punchline of the joke. Yeah, it was redacted. Yeah, it was.
Oh, did I ruin that? I didn't read that in my reread. I'm just recalling that from a month or two ago.
Yeah, it says in conclusion, I give Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon a solid redacted. Because I don't give fucking scores to games because it's cringe. No, but I would give this game a 6.
What did you redact? A 6?
A 6, which is 600. Which means good computer game.
You give it a 600. Out of how many? A 600 out of 6?
Yeah, a 600 out of whatever number like you want me to use.
601.
600 out of 601.
You take off 1 point, right, for the music, I think.
Music and the reused environments, and
right,
and the unbalancedness. I don't really care about the unbalancedness. I don't think that's a flaw. To be honest, we could go into this as like a conclusion, like actually talking about computer games. I don't think balance exists in computer games. I think it's like a wet dream or like a fantasy. I think balance is impossible to achieve. Like. Fighting games are notorious for this. They try to balance fighting games, and there's like some examples of fighting games that are okay, like balance-wise. But there's always like Magneto, There's always like freaking Dr. Doom and Magneto, like in every game. Yeah. It's like I pick Goku and Frieza as my tag teamer, and now I can just juggle you infinitely. There's always something like that in like every game. Balance is not. I mean, we can strive for balance, right? But it's really this pipe dream of. And that's probably how it should be. But balance probably shouldn't exist because we want to be trying to achieve it. If it's achievable, then
people should just play other characters besides Magneto, right? I think that's the solution. I've never really worried about like balancing games because I never worry about winning. Well, probably because I'm not very good at games. But just don't play winning, right? Like just don't play Magneto every time. Play another character, and then balance doesn't really matter. But I don't know. I guess this would be. Like I said, it's extreme end. You could imagine a game where, like, what if there was a Magneto character where literally you just press square and you win the match?
Right. Yeah.
You gotta fix that a little bit, but
maybe not. Fix that.
People should just not play Magneto. If that was the case, like if I was like,
no, every game
that game with somebody,
every game should devolve into like square, like. That's like the end game, right? It's like every character can hit square and win, and it's just who's fast enough to hit square, and that's kind of how fighting games boil down to. Actually, that's actually fighting games. There's more complication in between like Who can do square, 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 up, down, left, like first. That's the game. Like if you both pick Magneto, who can do square combo first? That's basically a fighting game, right? But if you boil it down to like, oh, you just hit square to win. Now we're at a very equal footing. That's how fighting games should be. It shouldn't be like I need to sit down and learn 600 hours of Magneto tech. Right? That's totally inaccessible. It should be like, I pick Magneto because he looks cool, and if I hit square first, I fucking win. And if the other player
first, you win.
if the other player hits his square before me, he wins.
Right.
I mean, that'd be boring, I guess. But like, that's kind of like you could reduce anything to that, I guess. But fighting games are just kind of notoriously weird to me for that reason. I guess there's like this honor and skill of like learning the Magneto tech, right? That's why.
Yeah.
Oh, I learned the Magneto infinite loop, and somehow that makes me cool and a better person. But yeah, I have a BMI of 65.
Jesus. Yeah,
I can't do sports or even walk, but like I know the Magneto tech.
You know the Magneto tech. You can get you locked in.
I know a few people like that have that mentality, but really what that mentality is it's not truthful mentality. It's cope, right? It's just cope.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. But I give this game a 600 out of 601.
Yeah, that's a great score. That's a very high score. That's like a 99.98. That's a really high. It's one of the best games ever made.
One of the best, yeah, I would say so.
It looks good. I've been watching the gameplay as we've been talking, and it looks cool. It looks like a lot of fun. It really does.
It was fun, and you can see like in the gameplay, like when there's just so much detail to the mechs. Like when the mech boosts to the left and right, you can actually see the jet shoot out from where it should, and like when he goes left and right, you can actually see it burst from the other side, and you can even see it when he does like slight turns, like if you're watching right now, like on his shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of detail put into the mechs. It's pretty cool. It's very fluid. It's a really good game.
Hell yeah.
I liked it. It's cool.
Cool. Armor Core 6.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah. I think that's
any last things we gotta add? Yeah.
I think we'll end this, but if you're staying up, I'll stay up with you. But I think we should end this.
I probably am falling asleep because I got to get up and watch the boy tomorrow as the old lady's got to go to work.
Okay. All right. Well, it was fun. I appreciate it. I'm kind of bummed that it was muted for such a long time. And there was some guy watching, and he didn't say anything. He's like, "Yeah, you've been muted."
He didn't say anything. Yeah, he was like, "Fine." He's like, "Yeah, you guys are not saying shit." Like,
I was hearing one side of the. No, he was hearing your side of the conversation only.
Oh, just me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
There were moments where you were talking for minutes, and I'm just like nodding, and that guy was just.
That guy was just sitting there like, yeah, he's muted, but I'm not going to say anything in chat.
And then the second you're like, am I muted? He was like, yes. Yes, you are.
I know. Like, the moment I mentioned it, he was like, yeah, you have actually been muted. I'm like, what? Like, okay.
That's great.
Thanks, bro. This is the type of person who sits there and just like likes to watch people get hurt. Probably hurts people himself. Probably the kind of guy who like gets like buys mice from Petco and then breaks their legs like one at a time. Probably, and then just watches and sees what happens.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, I apologize for being muted, but I started the recording again, but the final recording is going to be kind of postmodern-y like the essay because it's going to start in media res almost,
Yeah, in media res.
Which is fine, I guess. But I'll stop the recording. Thanks everybody for watching.